Good morning. In this part of my discussion, I shall talk about Marxist criticism or Marxism. Marxist criticism is a sociological approach to literature. This approach views works of literature or any other form of art as the products of historical process, which can be analyzed by looking at the material conditions in which they were formed. Material conditions here refers to the social, political, and economic conditions in which these particular forms or works of literature or works of art were formed. This approach has its base in the works of Karl Marx, who you might be knowing, he's well known for his book Das Kapital. Karl Marx was a German political philosopher. Marxist criticism investigates assumptions and values associated with culture, race, class, etc. For example, it investigates the question, are the rich always good or bad? Are the poor always good or bad? So it understands literature, art in terms of these sociological questions. This criticism explores the power struggle of those who are minorities in the dominant culture. It tries to examine who does not have power. So we can understand the conflict between haves and have-nots is the major concern of this criticism. It examines who has or does not have power, how they attain this power, and those who do not have it, why they don't have it, and why they do with what they do with it, how they are manipulating by this power. So these are some of the questions that lie at the center of the investigation or analysis of literature or art by Marxist criticism. This approach believes that literature is essentially political. Means literature or art either supports or refutes economic expression or operation. In other words, the author either reinforces the status quo or rebels against it. So literature can be either on this side or that side. It may talk about the present system in a favorable manner, or it may rebel against it. So when you talk about the literature of the world, you might come across certain writers who favor the existing system. On the other hand, there might be certain authors who write against the existing system. So this is how literature is essentially political. And in Marxist ideology, what we often classify as worldview, for example, we talk about the Victorian age, is actually the articulations of the dominant class. The TV serials that you watch, the movies that you watch, the literature that you read is an articulation of the dominant class. It talks from the perspective of the dominant class. That's what Marxist ideology believes. Marxism generally focuses on the clash between the dominant and repressed classes in any given age, and also encourages art to imitate what is often termed as an objective reality. Now, when we talk about contemporary Marxism, it is much broader in its focus and views because it views art as simultaneously reflective and autonomous to the age in which it was produced. Means it can reflect the age, or it can be autonomous, free from these particular social conditions. The Frankfurt School is associated with Marxism, and the major figures of Marxist criticism include Karl Marx, Terry Eagleton, Frederick Jameson, Raymond Williams, Louis Althusser, Walter Benjamin, Antonio Gramsci, George Lukács, Friedrich Engels, Theodor Adorno, Edward Aaron, Gilles Deleuze, and Felix Guattari. So these are some of the major critics from Marxist criticism or Marxism. The key terms associated with Marxism are the terms like codification, which means the attitude of valuing things not for their utility but for their power to impress others or for their resale possibilities. Now, for example, certain products are given importance not for their utility but for their uh, impressive appearance or for their resale possibilities. Certain bikes, certain cars, for example, the cars like produced by Audi or BMW have a kind of prestige. Further, the similar meaning lies with the term conspicuous consumption. So this refers to the obvious acquisition of things only for their sign value or exchange value. So both commodification and conspicuous consumption are similar in their meaning. Further, there is a term like dialectical materialism. Dialectical materialism is a theory that history develops neither in a random fashion nor in a linear one, but instead as a struggle between contradictions that ultimately find resolution in a synthesis of the two sides. Means history is the result of class conflicts, for example, or it is the conflict between classes or contradictions in different groups, we can see. Another term is material circumstances, which means the economic conditions underlying the society or the base. To understand social events, one must have a grasp of the material circumstances and the historical situation in which they occur. Another important term is reflectionism. This is associated with vulgar Marxism. It is a theory that the superstructure of a society mirrors its economic base. It is associated with vulgar Marxism, which means a theory that the superstructure of a society reflects its economic base. and by extension, that a text or a work of literature reflects the society that produced it. And superstructure means the social, political, and ideological systems and institutions. For example, the values, art, legal processes of society are generated by the base. Base means, as I mentioned, the material circumstances, the economic conditions underlying the society. We talk about upper class, low class, middle class in terms of the base. Base in the material circumstances. So this is how we understand the term and the history of Marxist criticism.